Hello everyone, happy November. It is November 1st. We are officially kicking off the Rough Draft Challenge and it feels weird. Not the Rough Draft Challenge, I'm very excited about that. What's weird is not saying happy NaNoWriMo. Month is not quite yet having the normal excitement. Normally I wake up on the 1st of November, ready to go, just dashing for that keyboard, so excited to participate in the sprints and the group and tracking everything. And I'm definitely missing that today. I think it's still going to be a good month. I am really excited about Sarah Cannon's Rough Draft Challenge. I'm definitely going to be participating in sprints, but I'm not starting a new project. And so that could be playing a role too in why I'm not in my normal November thrill and adrenaline. But who knows? Hopefully it'll pick up and grow as the month goes on. So let's talk about my plans and what I'm going to be working on this month. Now, originally, my plans for the month were way too ambitious, and I always do this, but I thought, okay, I'm going to write for Project Slipper. I'll do my first draft, aim for 50K, the typical November goal, and also I'll edit the Aztec Project, and I'll have a full-time job, and I'll be a mom, and I'll have regular things. That was never going to happen. And luckily, before the month set in, I had my reality check and was like, okay, we need to refocus and set some real goals here. There's a bug. Ugh. I got my developmental edits back from my editor on the Aztec Project. And whew, this was my first time working with an editor and having someone else read my work and give feedback on it. And it's a lot to take in. I will say she did a fantastic job. I will put her information in the description below. Highly recommend. She sent me a 25-page editorial letter with lots of good resources, tips, and also a lot of questions and things to help with my story and my character arc. So I've got a lot of work to do to edit this book. I think that it's all good and I have really good ideas and plans on how I can make the story better, which is very exciting. It's exciting to be I have the information I need now to take this one step further and improve it even more. But it's also very overwhelming to read all of this information and be I don't know where to start, especially because story, everything connects into everything else, right? It's not as easy as go to page 72 and fix this so that her backstory makes more sense. It's well, the backstory is weaved throughout and I need to think about her character as a whole and how this all comes together. So it's a lot. I'm going to share with you the editing plan that I put together that I'm going to tackle this month. And that's going to be my sole goal. For November and for the Rough Draft Challenge, I want to edit this book and have a completed 4th draft at the end of the month. Now, obviously that's not a rough draft. I'm several drafts in. I've already had an editor. Whatever. Old rules aside, this is my plan for this month, is to just focus on edits and really improving the story as much as I possibly can so that in December, I can start pitching it to agents. As for Project Slipper, I've actually recorded a video already, but I ultimately decided not to post it, where I talked about my plans in detail for that project, sharing a lot more of my inciting incident and the hook and what my X meet Y is. But I'm putting that on hold a little bit, just temporarily, because honestly, I can't do 2 projects at once. I can't do a draft of Slipper and also an edit of Aztec Project. I don't have the time. I don't have the mental capacity. I'm sure there are writers out there who could easily juggle the 2 projects. I'm not one of them. I'm not going to put myself in a place where I'm not meeting goals and then I'm just frustrated and mad at myself for not meeting the goals when they were never realistic to begin with. So I'm going to put Project Slipper on hold I will come back to it once I am done editing the Aztec project, but I really need to see this across the finish line. I have a horrible habit of starting new project and it gets hard, and so I start a new project and just this endless cycle of never really getting anywhere, and I don't want to be like that anymore. I want to finish something. I want to go all the way through with it, and so to do that, I need to put Project Slipper aside and focus on the Aztec project. So I'll share with you my editing plan, everything I put together. I made a Milanote board and have kind of grouped things. I'll show you. It's kind of cool. I'm actually really proud of it. But my sole focus will be getting those edits done. I am going to try to do a little bit of like vlogging throughout the month, just of how the rough draft challenge is going. Similar to, you've probably seen a lot of people used to do nano vlogs, and now there's like rough draft diary vlogs. So I'm gonna try to do that and share this adventure. I am basically rewriting it. Like, I will have my current draft and the editor's feedback, all those details, and then retyping everything. So I'm going to be counting the word counts like in TrackBear. Even though they're not brand new words, some of it will be literally direct me reading it and retyping what it says. But I'm still typing them. I'm still going to count it. It is what it is. If anyone doesn't agree, that's fine. This is for me. So let's dive into what my plan looks like. Okay, so this is my editing plan. Now, I basically came up with this from my editorial letter. So shout out again to Ashley, my editor, who compiled just a great list of resources and tips and things to work on. And so what I did from that is, one, I came up with this massive to-do list. So over here on the left is everything that I want to do and fix. And you can see it's quite long, but that's really because I broke out every single chapter into each of the steps that I want to do for that chapter. And so every single one, for example, I'm setting up a spreadsheet, and I can share that too, of how I'm tracking what the changes need to be. Part of that is reviewing the letter again and seeing what is specific to this chapter. And then also, like, these are different components within the letter. One other thing that she did for me was, in the manuscript itself, left comments all throughout. And so part of it is like reviewing those comments and seeing what needs to be updated. And then, oops, almost moved it, actually editing the chapter, asking some scene questions related to the changes to make sure that I have a good scene arc. And then make one, so this last one is totally me. I have a habit of like writing into nothing. Like, all my characters are floating in space. I tend to forget about description and like setting where they are. It's like everyone is just hovering in nothingness. So this is a reminder to myself at the end of each chapter to be like, did you establish the scene and the location? So that's the first part, is like this big to-do list here. And then you can see I've started to like check things off because I've already started going through. I pulled this image over here is from my mood board, and it's really to just add color. So when you put like an image here, and then this is just like a Milanote thing. If I click on this card, oh, that one doesn't have color. Let me click on this one. It's because it's a to-do list, but I need to click on like a normal card. Here we go. Okay. So when you come over to card color, you can see this like option down here. All of these change based on like this image. So the image is just there to reference, to establish some like color options. So that's how I like set some of these colors here in this one and kind of be on theme. Totally unnecessary just for myself. I called out some like key decisions here. So the current draft of the story is written as for adults. My character is pretty young. It could probably be new adult. She's in her early 20s, but I'm going to bring the age down a bit. And I'm actually going to lead into like a coming of age type of theme. And so that I need to make some small changes there. Just any reference to age and making sure I've established like that making her younger brings up a question of like, well, where is the adults, right? Because there's not like, she's not worried about where her mom is, for example, in the current version. And so I need to like call out some of those things. So that's a big decision there. And then I just have this note of that I'm going for Nettle and Bone meets Patron Saints of Nothing. That's to help me kind of like stay on theme with the vibe and like what I want the feeling to be. I'll come to these boards in a second, but the other tiles are just some like good references. So Story Genius, I have already read this. I listened to the audiobook. Oh, I can check that off. I listened to the audiobook. It's on Spotify Premium if you have that. So that was great. I also did get the ebook too, so I could kind of highlight and take notes. Going through my ideal reader questions, I've got my just like a chapter checklist here of like things I want to do for each chapter. These are the Story Genius scene questions. So like you can see like for chapter 1, I'm talking about like asking the 4 questions. These are the questions here. So rather than writing the 4 questions over and over again for every single chapter in my to-do list, I've just got them over here as a reference. Some notes here about how I'm setting things up in the spreadsheet. This was like my original, this is what all these bullets are, right? It was copied out over here, so I could just like copy and paste and get it to fill in really quickly. I'm hiding that here because there's some spoilers in the green text here, but I've got some notes. And then, and this is what I really love about Milanote, is this like board within board feature. So I've got these boards here, and I will click into some of them. Like this one, for example, is book inspiration. So these are 3 books to read to help me like just like stay on point for what I want my experience to be like, right? So like when you read those books, the way that you feel stepping away is kind of like what I'm hoping for here. I've got some resources that the editor had suggested in terms of just really honing in the theme of death into the story. So death is actually a character in my book, but there's also like the theme overall of death. And so doing some research, I did read these and took some notes you can see off to the side. So I've got that listed there. And then it feels like it's going extra slow with the screen recording, but that's okay. I'm not going to click on restructure because there's some spoilers, but I did decide to move some of the chapters a little bit in the beginning, just like it was really like half a chapter. I'm kind of moving up to the start of the story. So I laid out in different boxes like the current flow and then what the new flow is going to look like. These are some character items, and I had this like in my original board. If you look like up in the plan, this is within editing plan within the overall storyboard, and there were characters here too, but I did them again to just like note some key items to make sure it's consistent, and then also just a little map of how everyone relates to one another. And lastly, I won't click on this one because there's spoilers again, but some outstanding questions. So a big thing for me with my draft and like what the core of the feedback was I got from the editor is I'm really not providing the why to anything. And the hard part there is like, I know why in my head, but I didn't actually put it on the page. Although I will say in some instances, I didn't know why. So it was good that she asked. And this is me just like writing out all the questions that I still need to like uncover. And then I also like, I won't show it, but there's like 3 columns. So there's like the questions, what I think the answers are to all the questions, and then where that needs to be actually updated in the story so that it's on the page and my reader also knows why behind all the actions. Okay, so that was my editing plan in Milanote, and now I will show you what I have in Excel. So I have set up this Excel sheet with all of my chapters, the current word count. My book is broken into sections, so also the section. I've just started chapter 1, so that's the only one currently right now. It just has a status. And then these are, so when I start each chapter, what I'll do is kind of set it up in this Excel sheet before I begin actually editing and making any changes to the doc. And I'll read through the comments provided by the editor, the inline comments, note here anything that needs to be changed. These are my Milanote references, so going through my editing plan, that restructure book, and the outstanding questions, seeing what changes I need to pull in from there, noting them here, and then going through the editorial letter, reading through again what needs to be updated in chapter 1. So I have all those 3 sources of information compiled in one place. One of the things that the editor did was provide a pacing rating for each chapter. So I've included just a breakdown here. You can see chapter 1 was really good, but chapter 10, for example, needs a little bit of work, and chapter 11 even more. So I've got that here for a quick rating to know how much of a change I should be trying to make to the chapter, right? Is it like filling in some gaps of misinformation? Or is it like, wow, this chapter really could use a much bigger overhaul? It's just not quite hitting the mark. And then there is text here. I've changed the font to white just right now, so you can't see it as I'm working through because it's really specific. But these 2 are like questions that come up in Story Genius in terms of like, what is your character's goal? What do they expect will happen in each scene? And then these are from the Story Genius scene card, the alpha point subplot, breaking down the cause and effect. And then the third rail is more the emotional side. If you haven't read Story Genius, I highly recommend it. It was very good. I found it really helpful. I've read like books like Save the Cat and others that are about like the third act structure that are really kind of into like the formula and breakdown of beats. And I do enjoy those. Like, I think Save the Cat is helpful. This was a lot different in terms of just understanding your character and a lot of the like pre-work to the story. So I feel like they complement each other really well. And it's just a different way of looking at things. But I broke these down because I was definitely very plot focused in the prior drafts and not so much the overall story and understanding cause and effect. So that's something that I really need to work on and I need to edit in. And this is my attempt to help me do that. Then I have this other tab, which is a little bit more just like cut and dry numerics. So you can see I have the original word count, and then as I go through and update, I've only written 274 words so far in this chapter, in this rewrite. I'll add the new word count there. I've got like a general scene target of 2,600 words. Just some like basic math on the difference for the scenes so I can see like how far I have to go or how far off the mark I am, as well as the goal. So this is just like adding up, like this one's 2,600, right? This is the next one. So like cumulatively building it up. This is my actual total. And then the difference. So I can see like my word count goal, what I'm aiming for is about 72,000 words. And I can keep an eye on how far I am off of that. And then as I mentioned, I actually do enjoy Save the Cat. So these are the Save the Cat beats about where they estimate they should be in the story, and then getting an idea of like where I'm actually falling with those. And the nice thing is like in the editorial letter, my editor used Save the Cat too, highlighted all of the beats, and then broke down where she felt like they were landing in the story. I think. Oh, that's not what I was looking for. This is a prior one with draft 3, but everything pretty much was exactly where I had planned it to be. I only had 2 beats that were a little off. My debate is a little bit weak, so I need to work on that. And then my all is lost. The moment that she identified as all is lost came a little bit early, but I feel like there's a later moment that I saw as the all is lost. So when I come to that piece, I'll need to make sure that it's really delivering that message and hitting the mark there of like, no, this is the true moment where everything is lost. But yeah, that is my editing plan for the Rough Draft Challenge. All right, so that is my editing plan, and now the only thing to do is get started.